Welcome back, guys, to the Hearthstone Grand Prix here at DreamHack Valencia. We have decided our top 16 players for the main event, so while those players are all taking a minute to familiarize with each other's deck lists and all that good stuff, we are going to broadcast a game from the side event that's going on here. Joining me for the pleasure of casting this game is going to be Raven and Nimch. So, side event is an awesome initiative, right? The players who get eliminated, who want to drop out early, they then have something else to do here at the event, right? They can continue to play a Hearthstone tournament. It's something that we experienced early on at Insomnia events, and now DreamHack have started picking up as well.
Definitely. It's something that people experience playing normal card games as well. When you go to the event for 3 days of games, you expect to play Hearthstone for all 3 days, basically. And if you want to not play Hearthstone, you basically stay for the longer period of time and maybe lie on the beach. But overall, it's a Hearthstone event. And we had a lot of side events at other tournaments as well, at the DreamHack Summer. And here we have this one big tournament. So DreamHack Summer, we had a couple of them, $500 for the first place. Here it looks a bit different. There are prizes for the top 4, I think, or is it top 8?
It's for top 4, yeah. The way it breaks down, there's around $3,500 on the line. It's just over $1,000 for first place, and it filters down to $750 and $350 going down. So this isn't something these guys are just playing for fun. There's like serious money on the line. This is basically paying for your trip here if you get it done.
Yeah, and the cool thing about the side tournaments in any format like this is they're actually full of incredibly strong players, because the nature of Swiss is just the volume and the how strong the player base is in general means that we're going to see some of the current star players just not make it through, especially in this specific tournament with the volume of players we've got. And it actually makes the side tournament super interesting, because it's not just it's just a few people who want to get together and play. It's no, this is could well just be the top 16 from this. Right. It's really not a surprise at all to see some of the best players here.
And the format is different as well, right? Because they are playing in a Conquest format instead of Last Year Standing. So it's refreshing to actually play different formats of Hearthstone, not just only format.
Yeah, and we've had various players come up talking about their preferred formats between Last Hero Standing and Conquest. If people are here and prefer playing Conquest tournaments, hey, there's an opportunity to try both. So I think it's a great initiative just to add more variety to the event, make sure these people have constantly something to do, and we are going to get into a game shortly. I believe we are watching Ek0p versus the young man that you see on your screen right now, who I'm ashamed to admit I don't know too much about, but I believe he is 1-1 in the Swiss portion so far, whereas Ek0p is standing at 2-0. So both of these players are off to a decent start. But there you go. We are playing Conquest format here, 3-deck Conquest. It looks like they are ready to start, so I'll hand it over to you guys. Enjoy, and hope you guys at home enjoy the side event.
Thanks so much, Saul. So Xawko. Xawko? Xawko?
Xawko. Let's go for Xawko.
Okay, Xawko. So Xawko versus Ek0p, and we see Warrior. Ek0p opening with Warrior versus Warrior from Xawko. And Warrior said to me, he basically told me that he has some weird techs in this Warrior deck. Okay,
that's going to be interesting to see. We do see the Cthulhu Warrior as well, so that's pretty straightforward one overall. There's not too many large variations of lists in this. Everything's pretty straightforward. You want all those Cthulhu minions. Most importantly, the shield bearers, I think, have a lot of the time the biggest impact on the match in general. But this, in a control warrior, at least control style mirror, we're going to have to get comfortable, because this one might go on for a while.
Yeah, this is a very interesting matchup, because there is no action early, really. And both players, they probably don't know exactly what their opponent is playing, because the players were not streamed, and it's only the 3rd round of the tournament. So it might be hard to learn exactly what the opponent is playing, but they need to assume that it might be control as well. And if it's control versus control, you don't want to draw cards. It sounds weird, but you don't want to draw cards.
Yeah, as I alluded to then, the match is probably going to go on for quite a while, and the chances of hitting fatigue are quite high. The likelihood in both players playing just to get a True Heart, for example, to gain all the armor, that's the general play style overall. You get to a fatigue, and what you really try to do is just hit them at a point with some burst damage, like a Grom, where then the fatigue kills them in that final turn, so there's no response possible. But as you said, pretty slow open so far, both players just hero powering. I think there's a reasonable chance that Xawko might actually just hero power and not even bother equipping the axe. If your opponent's past turn 1, past turn 2, there's no reason to get that axe equipped quite yet. There's a chance that there could be weapon removal if you've not got any good targets for it to get rid of the durability. And then if you just start hitting face, it actually does nothing in the long run.
Yeah, at this moment, he has to assume this might be the control warrior as well. And gearing yourself against the out of control warrior, not only you can't draw cards, but you are thinking about this fatigue gameplay where both you and your opponent will hit fatigue at some point. You will have a lot of armor, especially with the True Heart that you've mentioned. And then with the key card is the Golden Monkey. So there are different strategies. Some people play Golden Monkey faster and then try to follow up with Legends and just bait out removal from their opponent. And if you have more cards in your deck, they will run out the removal, play their Golden Monkey, have less Legends than you, and you just continue building up Legends. But the strategy I personally like is trying to have as many cards as possible and play the Golden Monkey later, so that when they play their best Legends, I still have my Shield Slime, I still have my removal.
Yeah, I mean, the way, you know, on top of that, the way it works normally is, as you said, you don't want to draw cards. You actually bank shield blocks, acolytes, to turn into legendaries from the monkey. Like, you bank those cards, try not to play them in the game because you often don't need them, and then you just transform those into legendaries and then use the other removal tools you have throughout the game themselves. So you just sort of have the advantage in which you're only sort of discarding or transforming the cards you wouldn't use anyway in the deck to gain the advantage. But we do see both weapons are now equipped. There's a Worshipper just drawn for Xawko.
I think the most important part of this matchup right now is the fact that those decks are different. This is a Control Warrior versus Control Warrior, but Cthulhu Warrior, I think, has a slight advantage because Cthulhu, when it comes down for the first time, it deals a lot of damage, and then if there is something like a Doomcaller in the deck. Is it Doomcaller? It's Doomcaller, right?
Doomcaller.
You can bring Cthulhu back. So one of the things you want to do in the matchup is try to steal Cthulhu with Sylvanas if possible, so that if there is the Doomcaller, it will not come back and just deny Cthulhu. Also, if the Golden Monkey brings Cthulhu to your hand and changes that Acolyte of Pain that you didn't need into Cthulhu, that's again something really good that can happen.
Yeah, and one of the key strategies in these slower, especially in like the Cthulhu Warrior mirror, is to go play Cthulhu in a situation that you say like Sylvanas is gone. So you try and force the Sylvanas out, you play Cthulhu, and then you hold back Bran and Doomcaller, and then just try and get a safe Bran on the board into Doomcaller or get Emperor onto both of them. Play Bran, Doomcaller, so you have 2 more Cthulhu's that are buffed by +2/+2, and then you just win. Like that's literally the strategy in the mirror match. But as you said, these decks are slightly different, and what this allows Xawko to do is he has a lot of like mid-range style minions in this deck, as we can see. The 4/2 on the board there is going to prove a couple of small issues for Ek0p, but he is able to put pressure on instead of like the general armor up, armor up, armor up, armor up, and then see what happens in the super late game.
Definitely. There's one more thing about Sylvanas I want to mention. When Sylvanas comes down on the empty board, there is a chance to give your opponent an Acolyte of Pain. Just play Acolyte of Pain, kill opposing Sylvanas, and then when Acolyte of Pain is on the opposing side of the board, you try to force your opponent to draw cards with something like Revenge maybe, or...
Yeah, Ghoul. Well.
Yeah, definitely. So Ek0p was playing Hearthstone Jones. In control mirrors, like Hearthstone Jones is mostly used to kill Gorhal. He decided to play it earlier. Gorhal is not often played in the Cthulhu version of the deck, so I can't buy in there. But drawing a card is, in a way, annoying.
Yeah, it's kind of frustrating, but denying the weapon is important at this stage in the game, because this is where the minions start to kick in, and both players now drawing Sylvanas with key cards in this matchup, and I'm pretty sure with 2 Shield Slams in hand, Ek0p's going to want to hold on to a Shield Slam and be able to just Sylvanas Shield Slam, and steal the say the Cthulhu, or potentially even like an opponent's Sylvanas, because then you just deny theirs whilst gaining your own as well.
Yeah, if you're forced to block at some point, like you probably will not block at all.
I think you rely on just having that armor to Shield Slam, right? Because you should be drawing into Justicar soon, and then as we can see, other than some sort of chip damage, Xawko hasn't done really anything to Ek0p other than whittle down the armor a little bit. But when Justicar True Heart comes out, it's much more difficult to pile on the pressure.
So Xawko, at the moment, he is in an awkward spot. He only played 1 Cthulhu's Chosen, so his Cthulhu is at 8/8 at the moment, which means that he would love to get more buffs on Cthulhu to activate Emperor Vector. but he can't really. So this turn, it seems like it's just armor up pass.
Yeah, Doomsday is a really good counter to this minion. He's actually going to execute.
Oh.
So what he's realized is he needs to get to 10 for Cthulhu. So then his Shield Bearers, his Twin Emperor procs, and that's the key number. And without any other like direct Cthulhu buff minions in hand, this is all he has to work with. So he may as well keep it alive. And often this the 3/6 does take like 2 hits to kill a lot of the time.
That actually put him in an okay position. Not only he will have a chance to buff his own Cthulhu, but this is a minion on board that needs to be dealt with. And Ek0p, what can he really do? Like, if you don't want to shield block because you don't want to draw cards,
it might be more worthwhile to shield block, shield slam, just to be able to deny the Cthulhu, because the Cthulhu will only go to 9, right?
Yeah.
So you deny the 10, and going into turn 7, you expect Emperors, you expect Shield Bearer on that turn. So it might actually just be worth sort of not burning a card, but drawing a card a little bit quicker than your opponent, but being able to just make the Cthulhu turns awkward.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, sometimes when you're behind, you have to, unfortunately, draw the cards to be able to actually pressure your opponent a bit, because sometimes the Cthulhu Warrior will just put a minion on board, and it's cool. I don't want to draw cards because I'm thinking about fatigue, but fatigue might never come if there are minions on board that bash my face every turn.
Yeah, we see not the first Slogoth we've seen today, actually, but it is slipping into Ek0p's hand there. So a really cool minion for trying to deal with some of the removal that his opponent's going to have. Like, not going to be able to target with any cards like Shield Slam to be able to clear that guy up. So that's going to be really awkward to deal with. But once Cthulhu comes on board, the minion definitely isn't immune to Cthulhu's powers.
Yeah, who's that boy? It's Slogoth. But that turn was awkward, right? Like, he attacked into the Crazed Worshipper with a weapon.
No, he just shield block, shield slam.
He just shield block, shield slam. Okay, he was
so
thinking about that.
What he was thinking about was if he attacks with the weapon once, which he obviously can only do this turn, puts the minion to 3 health, which means he could War Axe again it next turn, but also it would only be at 9.
Exactly.
So then it avoids
the
the turn 7.
And now he did play Acolyte of Pain, and he did shield block, and he did draw the card from Hearthstone, so he's definitely losing the fatigue race.
Yeah, I think this is mainly just a nod to the quality of his hand. Sylvanas, he has to hold, because you need to make a big Sylvanas play in this type of matchup, as we discussed earlier. Shield Slam does nothing when there's no enemies on board anyway. You don't just want to just drop Grom, because you've seen, like, he's going to get executed, or you just easily cleared up with very little impact, and he only just drew into Slogoth, so it's not like he could hold off for a few turns and then play that. So he just played the Acolyte just to actually try and draw into something playable, because even this turn, look, like...
Yeah, he doesn't have anything, actually.
Yeah, he just armor up passes.
He's heavily losing this matchup at the moment.
Yeah.
So, well, I believe it's still just attack face, armor up and pass, because it is a Control Warrior matchup. Like, if he goes for Grom, he tries to be on board and be more aggressive, but this will be tough. I mean, he has the follow-up of Slogoth, so if he goes with Grom here, but is it doing anything, actually? Yeah,
so the idea is with Grom, like, he is pressuring his opponent and requires an answer, but there's just nothing else he could do that turn, so he's just valuing actually getting a minion on the board here. Putting some pressure on, putting his opponent 28, peels all the armor off, so, Shield Slam's obviously less efficient. It means you have to sort of create the armor first again and then be able to Shield Slam something big. We do see the Doomcaller coming time for Xawko, though, so now he's starting to piece together the options, and you know what? He might actually go for Doomcaller this turn.
Yeah, to buff Cthulhu.
There's some merit just to be able to buff Cthulhu, which then buffs Emperor, buffs Shield Bearers in the future.
Definitely.
But if the game is going late, you want the Doomcaller to put a Cthulhu back in your deck, and that can only happen when Cthulhu's already died. So
yeah, but then like Xawko is actually in a good position late game because Ek0p was drawing cards. He's throwing the threats right now. Yeah. So if he plays the Doomcaller, he's losing the opportunity to bring back Cthulhu, but still, like, he has a big minion on board. He's able to fight back. And he buffs Vekler, as you've mentioned. So it's still, I think, a very powerful play. Yeah. Alternative is to armor up, shield slam, execute Grom.
2 sources of removal into 1 Grom, though.
Really tough.
Yeah. Oh, is it? Oh, okay, this is the Sylvanas turn, it looks like. I mean, Sylvanas isn't as important in the matchup against a non-Cthulhu warrior. So, he feels he can just get away with it now. As in the Cthulhu warrior, you always keep it, because you just need to steal the Cthulhu.
Sylvanas was brilliant.
Or a potential brand.
Sylvanas was brilliant in a way because it's not really easy to deal with Sylvanas and give your opponent an Acolyte. And then it also blocks Xawko. Like, I believe Xawko does not know the Xawko is in the deck, and he does not expect it. But
my only worry here, if I was Ek0p, I would seriously consider just my own Sylvanas Shield Slam. But you are playing slightly into Brawl then. You do have like 3 minions on the board, 2 of which are very high priority. But you do completely deny the Sylvanas.
Yeah, also Ek0p is on the damage plan. Like, Ek0p does not plan to take this game to end game. He just wants to finish this as soon as possible. So I think Sylvanas Shield Slam follows up on what he was doing previously.
Yeah, and also you're going into the turns again where, as we said, you want to see the big guys come out from the Cthulhu Warrior now, and Sylvanas just says, you need an answer this turn. He can continue to peel the armor, so then, and a shield bearer is not going to come down. He's just going to give him Grom, though, and be able to execute his own Grom. He has gone into the Justicar True Heart from the draw off the Acolyte, though, so that's pretty key as he can drop that down and then start stacking up the 4 armor.
Did he armor up? No! He missed it because of the rope. Oh, Ek0p.
He waited too long to attack with the Acolyte to then get the card draw.
But that was a difficult turn. Like, whenever you see Sylvanas, honestly, he is saving Sylvanas specifically for Cthulhu, I believe, as you mentioned.
100% is. If he steals Cthulhu, then that's like almost game just there and then, because there's no like good win condition unless Cthulhu just kills him first. But that's going to be very difficult. As we can see, Cthulhu just a 9/9. That's not really what you want. Just stalling one off. He does have the Disciple of Cthulhu now.
Yeah, the Disciple is not bad.
Yeah, the only problem is like the True Heart still just lives. So that's kind of awkward.
You can slam True Heart.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel great.
No, that's a correct assessment of this situation where you have to just armor up, potentially shield slam the True Heart, and there should just be an easier way to kill a 3 health minion as this warrior. That's what you feel like when you make this kind of play.
It's still fine though, because you have the second shield slam, and you do have all the end game in your hand. You have the pressure, so you should be feeling good about this. And now you can go for Xawko, clear the 2-1, and it seems alright on this board.
Yeah, I mean, Ghoul looked easy because you just kill the 1 with the 1 health minion, but the rest of the hand doesn't look too great if you play Ghoul. So yeah, Xawko, it's fine. Just use the weapon to clear up there. So looking pretty good so far.
From Xawko is a Veclor turn, I believe, because you have an opportunity to go for Veclor, and why not?
Yeah.
And then after Veclor, you will be able, like, you can shield block first. Like, it's just checking how many cards you drew, how many cards your opponent was able to draw. So.
Yeah, and then again, as we mentioned, bear in mind, like the Cthulhu deck means that you can be more like risky with the card draw because you're probably going to be quite aggressive. Cthulhu hitting for 12 the turn it's played is like quite a lot of damage most of the time, and quite relevant in this matchup where your opponent not really putting on too much pressure.
So is Xawko slowly getting into a disastrous situation where Ek0p just deals with both those minions here, and you just follow up with Cthulhu to be able to clear the board, and you lose your Cthulhu to Sylvanas shield block? But then like Ek0p has no armor at the moment. So it will not be easy to Sylvanas shield block. Like even with Bash, you will not have enough mana.
Yeah. I mean, if Bram was in hand, we would definitely see Emperor here.
Yeah, because like Thorison with Bran and Cthulhu is so good.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, if he plays Emperor, then Doomcaller becomes 7, and you can still play Bran Doomcaller when you draw into it. But this turn specifically, I think you might have to look at removing the board, or at least putting up some form of speed bump for Ek0p to deal with.
How dangerous is Cthulhu though? Like Cthulhu is a big creature on board, and it will be hard to steal Cthulhu, and then if Cthulhu is being killed by some kind of removal, you just bring it back with Doomcaller anyway. Yeah,
you just have to play the Cthulhu and hope that Sylvanas removal isn't there. Because when Cthulhu gets stolen, you really struggle to actually close out the game because that's your big threat and the whole point of playing Doomcaller itself. So it's going to be the Cthulhu turn. It does clear up the minions.
Yeah, that was a perfect Cthulhu. Like you definitely wanted to clear those minions there.
Yeah, but he can steal it with Bash into Shield Slam. So this is going to be stolen for the Cthulhu. And this is going to prove some pretty big trouble for Xawko as well, because now he still have big minions in the form of Doomcaller. And he has the Emperor to create Shield Slam, execute 0 mana cards pretty good most of the time. But in general, this is a disaster when you lose Cthulhu.
Yeah, and that was brilliant of Ek0p's, because he created a situation where with no armor, you can think like, hey, he's not going to steal my Cthulhu because it's only Sylvanas armor up, full armor, not enough. But with Bash, he was able to do it. And right now, Doomcaller does not bring Cthulhu.
Yeah, but then again, if you look at Ek0p's hand, it's not really fantastic either. It's just Baron Geddon and a Fiery War Axe when he has Gorehowl equipped. So Ek0p's probably wanting to get into the Monkey if he plays it, which I imagine you would in this style of deck, pretty quickly, just to be able to add some more value to his hand, because there's not many more cards. He's played Grom, right?
Well, you can actually cut at least sometimes.
Yeah.
It depends on the metagame. Like sometimes if you expect only Dragon Warrior, if you do not expect control matchups, you don't really need to run at least Starseeker. On ladder, definitely you will run it because there's always a chance you will run into control, and Cthulhu Warrior is really popular on ladder. But yeah, I think he is playing it actually in this deck.
Yeah, I just think that the problem is if you don't play it, you limited win conditions, right? And already now we've seen Grom. Geddon is in hand, but Geddon, can be easily dealt with most of the time. He does clear up the Worshipper there. Drops down the Geddon, there's no other reason, but there's nothing else to do, right, for Ek0p. That's the problem. He can keep armoring up, but you know what? Like, Xawko's probably running double Shield Bearer in his tech, which armors up a hell of a lot faster than Ek0p can at the moment.
And Fatigue.
Yeah,
Fatigue
exactly.
is going to hit at some point, and I think it's going to hit Ek0p first because he was drawing more. So what's the best way to remove Geddon from the board?
I mean, he just has to Fire War Axe, tank it, right? And then execute.
Are there any other threats in this deck that you want to execute? Like, is there a Ragnaros at all? Like maybe Alexstrasza? Not really.
Yeah, really does depend on the build, because this style of warrior isn't something that's too common at the moment. With all the other warrior decks that are playable, this is definitely not the most common. So a few variants of build. There's Elise. So now things can get a bit more serious as Ek0p can sort of build a sort of bigger game plan and go in. Come on, Geddon, you got this. Like, we're going to go all the way.
Well, the problem is this Geddon does not really challenge the 7-9.
Yeah, I like just going face. Because the Doomcall is going to trade at this point, you'd imagine. Just because the trade's pretty decent, but also the 2 damage from Geddon makes the follow-up to kill the Doomcaller a lot easier. And also, Ek0p just has Brawl. So if the board does start to build up, you can just get rid of it pretty easily as well.
Yeah, you can try doing that. Acolyte of Pain, you probably ignore it. I was like thinking if you should throw Acolyte of Pain to Brawl and have a better chance of your minion surviving, but I'm not sure if you even want Acolyte of Pain on this board. I think like just killing Elise with the weapon attack and killing Geddon with the minion attack is definitely fine with your opponent having just 2 cards in hand. And then you play Thaurissan and armor up, and that's basically it.
Yeah, you might even want to skip Thaurissan though, because the Gorehal's on 5, right?
All right.
So you do, so I just don't think you want to hand the Emperor over because Ek0p's got very limited cards. You don't want to give value to the cards he does have.
So execute does nothing. Acolyte of Pain on board is actually good for you because maybe you will be able to draw cards to your opponents and try to equalize the fatigue race. Brown Bronzebeard, it's a minion. Does nothing right now, I think, overall, because if you get a Shield Bearer, as you've mentioned many times before, you can get 20 armor on 1 turn, regardless of Thaurissan.
Ridiculous sum of armor to be gained with a 2 minion combo.
So it's there's no reason to throw away Brown Bronzebeard here. And we're just going back to, like, there was some action actually, but we're just going back to the natural state of this matchup, which is armor up pass, armor up pass, armor up pass.
Yeah, are we going to see some Acolyte on Acolyte action? That is the key question. More than likely not, as you don't really want to, create stupid situations in which you both just like. Although it would speed up the game, right?
It does.
Someone should run over and be like, you have to play Acolyte, and you have to trade them into each other every turn, just to speed up this game. And it's like, come on, all it will do is accelerate what's going to already happen.
The problem is if you play Acolyte and then your opponent finds a way to actually like draw 3 cards. Like you draw 3 cards and your opponent draws only 1.
I don't think I like this brand at all.
Well, it creates more pressure on board.
But you don't need pressure if you're going to gain 20 armor and put a 6/6 on the board later. Like, the Cthulhu buff does nothing because Cthulhu's gone from the game. So that actually does. He's literally just played a 2/4 for 3 mana.
Come on, he can still have the monkey into Cthulhu.
He won't run monkey.
But yeah, I don't like it.
And this creates a brawl, like a reasonable brawl, which is normally a dead card in the matchup.
Yeah, there was no reason to play this card.
Yeah, I mean, Bran lives, but I don't know. Imagine if he only had the 2 minions. One's the 4/2 Divine Shield, like the Chosen. Like, what would Ek0p actually do to that board? He would like brawl and hope the Acolyte lives, and then you still have Bran? I don't know. I think that was a bit of a waste.
Yeah, it seems like Xawko does not have the patience for this matchup.
I completely agree. I was going to say it's like he's getting bored with it already, which, you know, Cthulhu Warrior, not really a deck you should play
like,
if you don't like the long games.
Why do you play Thaurissan here?
Yeah, he used the weapon though, right? Yeah, so Thaurissan, that's just to put a body on the board.
Yeah, but do you really want a body on board here? Isn't like a card in your hand better when you get Elise Starseeker? Unless he's not playing Elise.
Yeah, I just don't think he'll be playing it. And this is the problem now. Goes all the way back to the Cthulhu being stolen and the risk of playing Cthulhu before you've seen a Sylvanas. Because there's just like very limited threats left. There's literally the 6/6s from the Shield Bearers. And then not much else, right? I actually can't think of maybe Rag.
Well, he might still be running Elise in the deck. Like,
yeah, there's still a chance. Hey, Bran would be good this turn.
to just get extra turn.
Yeah, I mean, like, what did Bran do the other turn that outweighs this? Because you're going to get to the fatigue more than likely. So you're going to draw your Shield Bearers. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it was a good play.
I mean, 10 armor is still pretty good. A 6/6 on the board. It does require an answer, which again you get an Ek0p to answer a card that you've got another one of sat in the deck as well. So you just make him burn out of resources. But overall, I think it's just crazy that Bran wasn't kept.
Yeah, I agree. Bran is just too good late game as well. But still, Ek0p, the number of cards in the decks is really important now because. Xawko still has the second Shield Bearer. He can still pressure, where Ek0p is trying to just accumulate cards in hand. When he hits the Golden Monkey, he will be able to choose which legend to play instead of just draw a card, play it, draw a card, play it.
Yep. So again, as we said earlier, shield block. Ek0p's got the choice to try and cycle quicker into Monkey, but personally I think we're just going to see shield block as a legendary. Like shield block will be a legendary, brawl will probably be a legendary, maybe even revenge, maybe even the Fire War Axe.
How much damage did he deal to Shield Bearer? He attacked with Acolyte into it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he just attacked to execute. Double Google, not really too impactful this early in the match. There's Doomsayer. I mean,
it's a good legendary card when you play the Monkey.
This is exactly what's happening. It's just like, this is fine. These are all cards I don't want, don't really do anything. And I can turn them all into legendary minions, which, guess what, normally have quite an impact on the game.
But Xawko still has double brawl. He has execute, so he has a removal card. There is a golden map. There is a map.
But the problem is as well, Xawko doesn't have just a card down.
Yeah.
So every single turn, Ek0p's getting double, and it goes straight into. Oh god, it's got to be Monkey, right?
Yeah, you don't have a different game plan. Like this was your game plan from the start.
And like, if you wait for a full hand, the turns you spent waiting might be more negative to the game than the extra cards, right?
You want to have board presence.
Yeah, and even the 6/6 taunt is a pain to actually remove. You know, it has to be killed. It's a threat in itself. Never mind all of the legendaries.
But this also opens the door for Xawko because he knows now there's no brawl, no execute, and nothing. And those legendary cards are quite good, actually. So, if he can keep the Druid legendary on the board for a turn, this could get rather silly. Although he's seen 0 brawls. So, you know, it's definitely something to bear in mind. We're just going to see the Justicar True Heart turn, the double armor up for the whole 10 mana. He can now start to at least try and, you know, like, cash that in and catch up again, although he's not too far behind Ek0p in general. Herald will create a 1/1 taunt.
Is there any... Okay, so there's no cards in hand that put another card in the deck, right? So Chromagus is down just so Ek0p can gain a double draw of whatever's left in the deck.
Deathwing.
That would actually be ridiculous. Don't even joke about this difference.
I'm almost out of cards. Is Elise Starseeker the last card in the deck, or is he actually not playing it? Because he wanted to win with damage. If he doesn't, I don't see a way for him to win this game.
Yeah,
and he was drawing a lot of cards as well.
I think he needs to kill the Chromagus as well, because just the 2 legendary draw
too much value.
could lose the game
Yeah.
for him. He just has to execute and hope there's nothing that he really needs to execute for, because he has double brawl, right?
Yeah, but
so he can just brawl for 2 turns to deal with anything that's
This
played.
is still troublesome because you are using your removal cards, so you have less legendary cards when you get Elise. Like you just.
I don't think he's running it. I genuinely don't think he's going to run Elise in this deck.
So what is the last card then?
We'll see.
It's not that Peggle.
Wham, double Peggle. How bad would that? I mean, no difference to having 1 to 2 here because there's no more cards to draw.
Dark Fisher is actually quite good.
Yeah, the evil Peggle would be great,
Yeah.
but friendly Peggle, you can go back to fishing as far as I'm concerned.
All right, so from Ek0p's perspective, what can he do here? Killing the free, just this is Ek0p's life. Like those are his resources. So he knows if all those legendaries die, he loses the game, and he knows there is some removal still. But
yeah, I mean, I kind of just like Emperor, to be honest.
Well, Herald creates the 1/1 taunts as well.
Yeah,
you want to bait out brawls, basically,
Yeah,
right?
so the way I would work with this hand is try and bait the brawls and then save Hogger, because then you just don't lose, right?
Yeah.
You just don't lose at all. So Hogger's going to be the winning card if the plan works that Ek0p's going for here. I like the Emperor here. The last card is Slam.
What?
Definitely not helpful. I told you.
Elise.
Don't have room for release when you're worshipping Cthulhu.
I guess. Well, that might be a grave mistake. Like, I know Cthulhu is cool and all, but at least Starseeker. It's the top card in this matchup. So
Yeah, but how often do you play this matchup? That's the problem. How often have you played against straight-up Control Warrior?
not often. And this is something I said in the beginning. Like,
So, if you're planning for that, you probably wouldn't play Doomcaller and play Elise. But in general, the Doomcaller wins too many matchups.
not necessarily, but yeah, like this is one of the things you can do. Like, you can also like cut Bran and Thorson, and
You wouldn't cut Bran in a Cthulhu
I
deck.
would. I would play
20 armor in a turn, Nimsh.
Yeah, I know
2
it's-
Cthulhu's.
I know it's cool, but it's like combogenic. Like, I like having a Grom and Geddon in my
If you're
Cthulhu
cutting
Warrior.
those, you cut Emperor first.
Yeah,
Emperor's the thing that allows the better combos.
Yeah,
right?
obviously, like you cut Bran and Emperor, both of them, and you play maybe Geddon and Grommash. Like that's something I played, and I definitely will play Elise.
Crazy. You are crazy, Nimsh.
It's a good deck.
But this is just so we're just going to see how long or how much patience Xawko has to try and hold off on these brawls. But Ek0p also has to not overextend to a certain extent. I guess the idea here is to set up the Tinkmaster and just give a bad minion to try and turn into a 5/5. Because already there's no great way to deal with this.
You can turn not Peggle into 5/5. That's the thing, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's a way he could actually utilize the card. No taunts left in Xawko's hand, so the Black Knight is just going to be a 4/5, but still not too bad.
So the question is, do you brawl now or do you just wait? This is actually 10 damage you're taking, so 6 if you armor up.
I mean, he could just play the 6. He could play the Shield Bearer and then just Cthulhu's Disciple of Cthulhu onto the 1/1, but the problem is then you don't you get the armor from the Shield Bearer, but you don't get to armor up, and you need to armor up every turn. But there's nothing else that feels great, to be honest.
And you can't really wait because then Ek0p will be just like, hey, sure, like you
Just
waited,
hits
I
you
just
for
like
yeah,
just
hits you for 10. And he still has what's left. Is the weapon on 3 or 2? I think it might be 2.
Well, he really hopes the 1/1 survives.
Yeah. Okay, so it was actually the Emperor that survives instead. So that's a threat in itself. 4/6 taunt, difficult to get through, and it's going to chip away at the armor all the time. And now, I wouldn't even just mind I was going to say Black Knight or Avinia, Aviana, sorry, onto the board, because you just create just enough pressure to beat the armor game and you make your opponent think about a brawl. Because I'm pretty sure Ek0p knows what the final cards are, right? You could just tell him what cards are left in the deck.
Pretty
It's fairly
obvious. Like those cards are in every custom deck, whatever you do. So this is just trying to be careful. And as you said, Hogger is the winning card. I don't really see Xawko actually winning this. This will be super tough for him. He doesn't have tools to fight, and brawl might be too late. Fatigue is more or less equal, and now what can Ek0p do here? You can just kill it, I think, with the weapon and an attack. Aviana is alright.
Yeah,
as well.
I think that's fine. I mean, if you're feeling really scared of the fatigue, you could just still double trade, because it's very likely that a brawl's required anyway.
I think you're in a good spot overall. Because like you will have the minions, and the minions will good.
Yeah, as long as you put enough pressure on to beat the hero power, then you fine. This is Ek0p's winning, and then his worst case scenario is to have to play Hogger and win. Like,
yeah,
that's literally worst case, because although his overall Golden Monkey turn in terms of the legendaries he's got weren't like highly impactful. The Chromagus could have been useful, which drew out the Execute, but the Hogger alone was just by far the best card, because in this matchup specifically, like the Warrior just can't do enough every turn.
So what actually won Ek0p the game here in this interesting Warrior versus Warrior was that he was able to steal Cthulhu with Sylvanas, and that was really smart. He recognized in the beginning that he needs to draw the cards to be able to win, and obviously the lack of Elise from Xawko was deadly. You just have those small cards that don't do much, where you could have just legendary cards to win the game.
Yeah, I'm genuinely surprised that Xawko hasn't conceded yet. Purely because there's just how does the armor up be 9 damage a turn plus anything else he plays? He probably wants Ek0p to play another minion to get the most value from Brawl.
Yeah.
But Ek0p doesn't have to, I don't believe. I think
Ek0p knows.
As the fatigue is, I think, even or maybe 1 turn ahead. I'm not sure. That was 4.
It's 4 to 4, I think.
Okay. Then, like, yeah, you know what? 9 damage a turn does pretty well versus this. Even though he's slightly behind on health overall, he'll just catch that up across a couple of turns.
Well, he hopes. It's really hard to let's go the match, especially when you're a stream. You try to show yourself in a good light, but from our perspective, we know that he has nothing to do, and even if he tries to bait Ek0p into playing another minion, Ek0p is a pro player. He will know what to do, and what to do, you just have to go face and keep on the board state. He doesn't need to do
anything else at this point.
And this board state is winning the game, so.
And if his opponent could deal with it well, he would have done it last turn, and he can't. So, and Ek0p just will never play another minion to make the brawl more valuable. And the problem is, even if he brawls, if any of the minions survives, he can't deal with them. He would have to just play the Ghoul, the Disciple, trade the next turn, but then you've got literally nothing versus 3 legendaries in hand of your opponent.
So what do you think about Ek0p's deck, by the way? Control Warrior with Sagoth. This is Conquest, so this is not us here standing. It's a bit different. But still, this deck, we haven't seen a lot of Control Warrior because Cthulhu seems to have better matchups in this current metagame.
I like the deck as a deck in its sort of vacuum, but the problem with it is Warrior's in such a good position at the moment in the metagame in terms of how many strong decks. Look at Dragon Warrior, even just the Cthulhu Warrior itself, even though it's on the the back end of a bit of a rough loss here. Then I just think there are better Warrior decks in general, but I think the Control Warrior deck's probably always gonna stick around in one form or another.
True. I like both decks. Control Warrior versus Control Warrior is really intense in a way that it goes to fatigue and you really have to plan with your cards. But if one player has Elise and the other doesn't, it normally doesn't end well.
Yeah, and it was just, again, like we said this right at the start, if Sylvanas is held and can be held, because the idea is to try and force your opponent to play Sylvanas, not against Cthulhu, right? And then you play Cthulhu, then you go Doomcaller, that's how you win. But if your opponent just gets the Sylvanas off against the Cthulhu, the game's just over. You have almost no win condition.
And we see the Ghoul here with the Brawl, which means...
Is the heroic Ghoul going to win?
Yeah, is it going to win this? Thank you. Nope. Diana wins. And is Xawko going to concede? Yep.
There we go, and Ek0p takes the first game. Welcome back, Sol.
Yeah, Ek0p takes the game.
The first and unfortunately only game of this series that we are going to watch. Despite these guys, you may have enjoyed casting this incredibly long Control Warrior mirror, but we unfortunately have a schedule to keep to, and we need to get back to the main event. So we are going to cut that short. That's going to carry on. We just wanted to give you a little taste of the side event. And we are going to move on very, very quickly with our first of the top 16 matchup. So are you excited to get into this top 16? There's a lot of sick names sitting in there, I think. Yeah,
it's always great to see any top 16 that have come through Swiss, because these guys have really just nailed the first part of the tournament. They've grinded out all those rounds and performed exceptionally well in quite a stacked field. So we have some very popular names that everyone should know. We've got a nice sprinkling of maybe lesser known players, which is always nice. So I'm just enjoying to get it going and see what happens.
Absolutely, me too. I was watching those players get to the top 16. So I was like, when I was not casting or like hosting, I was just walking around taking pictures of the first tables. So there's a lot of really intense faces in the top 16. Like not only the pro players, but like some people I have never seen. They played really well and they were just crushing everyone in the last hero standing. And even if there is a new player that you guys haven't seen, those guys went through 9 rounds of Swiss. Their scores are at least 7-2. So this means like they defeated 7 people to get here, and this is impressive.
Yeah, it certainly is. And like I said, there's a lot of interesting names in there. There's also some interesting decks in there. I'm not going to lie, there's a lot of Zoo, there's a lot of Shaman, there's a lot of Warriors, but there's some interesting stuff in there as well. And I think just before we go to a break, I think we can take a quick look at the top 16 bracket to give you a full rundown of what we're going to be up against. But once we've broken that down for you, it'll be a very quick break. Everything's ready to go. So just enough time for us to shuffle around, and then we'll be into top 16 action. But yeah. I think we may have the wrong graphic queued, but I hope we can take a look at top 16.
I like the fact that he said that the casters get shuffled around. Very good with the card puns, so good work.
Hey, there we go. Now we get a look at the bracket. So this is the first game that we will be watching after the break, the one that's highlighted, Evangelion versus Ek0p, but otherwise there's some great names in this lineup. There's Crane, there's Camlan, who's been doing well at recent tournaments, Stan Sifka, probably the standout celebrity player name in this list, Cypher, Deathlaw as well is the 9-0 player in here as well.
And also I'm really looking forward to finding out how Bunny Hopper versus Technogoose goes, because Technogoose might be not a name that everyone knows, but for example, like he plays in a lot of tournaments, like loads of online cups, and I have him on my friends list, and he's always extremely high on ladder, like always putting in the performance every single season. So him versus Bunny Hopper, like might not be the flashiest game on that screen, but it's definitely going to be a really good match. So hope we get to see that one at some point.
Me personally, I'm super excited for Davido versus Weasel, because Davido is one of the only Polish guy in the top 16, and we have a lot of Polish guys here coming and playing the tournament. Davido was the only one who made it, one of the most recognized Polish players in Poland. So finally making a breakthrough on the world scene, playing versus Weasel, a French player, also a great player there. So like overall, this top 16 looks really fascinating.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys are too, and you are not going to have too much longer to wait. Like I said, we are pretty much all ready to go, so very quick break just to get all our affairs in order, and we will be right back with you here at the